This is Paul. Yeah. There's what's known as the General Services Administration, the GSA, a federal government agency charged with the housekeeping duties of the government. It supplies all government bureaus and agencies with their physical necessities, providing everything from paper clips to new buildings. Oh, the GSA. I had emailed those in the GSA. My grandmother had worked for 20 years in the Government Services Administration. Is it administration or agency? Agency. Now, let's say I went through the GSA's employees for the last 40 years. Let's go ahead. Now, their job, as explained in this law dictionary, is to make the purchases for the government from paper clips to buildings. Yeah. Where do you think they get the money to buy those items? Now, what if I found out that in the GSA they had those employees that would only do business with certain companies? Now, I remember going through the GSA and noticing there were certain associations and preferred partners and special groups of businesses and companies that were okayed to do business with the GSA. Now, I had talked to my grandmother while I was growing up, and I used to go have lunch with her, with my grandfather, Chuck. When he retired from Boeing, he retired before my grandmother did, and I was maybe 6, 7, 8 years old, and we'd go to the GSA building there in Auburn. Yeah, they had a nice cafeteria, they had a nice lunch there. Yeah. Well, it turns out that the government has a certain way of purchasing items. Why don't you give me every expenditure of the GSA for the last 40 years? Who they bought those items for, what government agencies, independent agencies, and those branches of the government that oftentimes need a new building or need new paper clips. Yeah. And then tell me, did the Fish family decide that they were going to control all the purchasing of the government? Now, as I understand it, let's say you're a commissioner in a county court, and you say, my smoking is a reason why I'm a bad parent. And I would say, well, my taxes pay for your employment and all the items that you use when you go through your job as a county employee. Now, it's just not the labor costs of having a judicial system. There's the building cost of having a courthouse. Yeah, there is. Quite often they have maintenance, and you've got to get the floors cleaned, and you've got to buy printer paper and copy ink and all the necessary supplies to be able to run a court. Now, I can go through the actual expenditures of every county court in the United States. What if I found out that the Fish family was deciding where taxpayer money was being spent? And I found out that non-human beings are really deciding where all the taxpayer money is being spent instead of actual human beings that are actual American citizens because you decided to clone or fish twin those that decide where the money's spent. Now, as much as I don't want to get upset about this tonight, okay, ouch, oh boy, he's upset right now, I can tell you that right now. I'm going to need to know every government services agency expenditure for the last 40 years, all the employees that worked at the GSA, and every company that received any monies from the federal government, so that those employees that have sworn that they were going to support and defend the Constitution could do their jobs every day, folks. Now, you really got to understand there's more than one way to tax a nation. That's